Captain Marcus Hale stared at the hollow screen flickering before him, the cold blue light casting sharp shadows across his weathered face. The message was clear, and yet the weight behind it felt heavier than any battle he fought. Earth's Special Forces, reactivation authorized. Deployment to Veshner Prime, immediate effect. He exhaled slowly, closing his eyes. At 52, most of his former comrades had settled into quiet retirements, or civilian lives. Yet here he was again, called back into a war that stretched beyond his understanding. A war where humanity was little more than a footnote, if that. The Galactic Council's verdict on humans had been brutal and unambiguous, obsolete, fragile, and irrelevant in a galaxy dominated by starships that could vaporize cities and machines that never tired. But Marcus knew better. He had spent decades in the unforgiving crucible of Earth's conflicts, jungle patrols, urban warfare, hostage rescues. His bones ached with memories, but his resolve burned steady. "Get your gear ready, Hale," came the voice of Lieutenant Sarah Chin, crisp and efficient. She stood nearby, her expression tight but respectful. "Command expects us on board the Aurora within the hour." Marcus nodded. "Understood." The quarters were cramped, cold, and sterile, the kind of place designed to remind veterans that comfort was a luxury for civilians, not soldiers. Marcus ran a hand over his gray-streaked hair, steadying himself. "This is it," Sarah said quietly, sitting across from him. "You really think we can make a difference out there? They don't even want us in the front lines." Marcus met her gaze, his eyes sharp and unyielding. "They underestimate us. That's their mistake." She frowned. "We're relics, Captain. Against the Zalrax and their tech, what can a bunch of old-school soldiers do? We're more than muscle and guns, Lieutenant. We're adaptable. We fight with our heads as much as with our hands. That's something the Council seems to have forgotten." Sarah sighed but didn't argue further. They both knew this war was different from any Marcus had faced. The enemy was alien, ruthless, and terrifyingly efficient. The Council's forces were stretched thin, their advanced weapons systems faltering against the Zalrax's relentless onslaught. As the transport ship Aurora hurtled toward Veshner Prime, Marcus's thoughts drifted back to the Council's war room, where the alien delegates had spoken with thinly veiled disdain. "You Earthlings are a quaint curiosity," an Eldarim officer sneered. "Your primitive combat techniques are no match for our automated battalions. And yet," Marcus thought grimly, "we're the ones sent to hold the line." The descent into Veshner Prime was turbulent, the atmosphere thick with dust and smoke from years of conflict. The landscape below was a brutal expanse of cracked earth and jagged mountains, no place for the faint-hearted. Marcus stood in the transport bay as the hatch opened, cold wind biting through the thin armor of the landing zone. Around him, his squad gathered, a mix of veterans and younger recruits, each hardened by Earth's brutal training but visibly tense in this alien theater. "Listen up!" Marcus barked, his voice cutting through the noise. "We're not just cannon fodder. We're here to prove that humans still matter. The Council doubts us, the aliens sneer at us, but we're going to show them what grit looks like." Private Diaz, a tough kid from the outskirts of Santiago, nodded fiercely. "Sir, we're ready." "Good," Marcus said, scanning the horizon. "Keep your heads, watch your sectors, and trust your instincts. The Zalrax won't hesitate to take advantage of any weakness." The squad moved out, stepping into the chaos of Veshner Prime's front line. Explosions punctuated the dusty air, distant gunfire echoing over the cracked plains. Alien soldiers, tall and sleek with multi-jointed limbs and glimmering armor, eyed the humans with suspicion. Lieutenant Tarn, an elderly officer assigned as liaison, approached Marcus with a cold smile. "Captain Hale, I hope your veterans understand their place. The front is no playground for outdated tactics." Marcus returned the smile, a razor's edge beneath calm. "Lieutenant, we may surprise you." Tarn's eyes narrowed. "I doubt it. You'll see soon enough." As the humans set up their positions near a ruined cityscape, it quickly became clear the Council's fears were not unfounded. Energy weapons from Zalrax skimmers scorched the terrain, their precision deadly. Human rifles and grenades seemed almost archaic against such firepower. During a reconnaissance patrol, Marcus's squad encountered a Zalrax raiding party. The aliens moved with ruthless efficiency, claws, plasma bursts, and mechanical drones swarming with precision. "Hold steady!" Marcus commanded, voice low but firm. His team formed a defensive perimeter, their movements practiced and precise despite the disparity in technology. Diaz fired a burst that caught a drone's optic sensor, causing it to spiral out of control. "Got one!" he shouted. "Good shot, Private," Marcus acknowledged. "But watch the flank." Suddenly, an alien warrior leapt forward, its claws slashing through the air. Corporal Evans threw himself in the path, taking the hit and staggering but holding. "Cover him!" Marcus ordered, firing a shot that forced the attacker back. The skirmish was brutal but brief. The humans withdrew with casualties but intact. As they regrouped, Marcus's voice was steady. "We're not invincible, but we're not beaten. Remember this moment." Back at the command post, the alien commanders remained skeptical. "Their numbers are small," Tarn reported, "and their methods obsolete. They won't last." But Marcus, sitting quietly nearby, felt a spark ignite within him. The Council's doubt was a challenge, a call to arms for every soldier who'd ever been written off as useless. That night, under the cracked skies of Veshna Prime, Marcus gathered his squad. "We're not just fighting for this planet or for the Council," he said, voice low but fierce. "We're fighting for every human who's ever been told they don't belong. This war isn't over. Not by a long shot." The soldiers nodded, eyes burning with a new kind of fire, the kind born from knowing the galaxy was watching, waiting to see if humanity still had a fight left in them. As dawn crept over the horizon, Marcus stood at the edge of the battered battlefield, gripping his rifle. "They called us relics," he thought. "But sometimes, the oldest tools are the sharpest." The dawn light cast long shadows over the shattered remains of Veshna Prime's ancient cityscape. Smoke spiraled upward in thin columns, the aftermath of another brutal night. Captain Marcus Hale stood on a ridge overlooking the battlefield, watching the alien allied forces reposition themselves. The air was thick with tension and dust. Around him, his squad moved with practiced efficiency, scanning for threats. Despite the alien technology surrounding them, the humans relied on something far older: their instincts, adaptability, and relentless determination. Lieutenant Sarachin approached, her expression a mix of respect and cautious optimism. "Captain, the alien commanders are still skeptical, but they've started to take notice of our tactics." Marcus nodded. "Good. We need every advantage we can get." Sarah frowned slightly. "Their energy weapons and drones outmatch us, but you've had the team experimenting with guerrilla tactics, right?" "That's right." Marcus crouched and pulled a map from his pack, pointing to several scattered locations. "We're hitting supply lines, ambushing patrols, and using the terrain to our advantage. These ruined buildings, caves, and tunnels, they're our playground now." A young soldier, Private Diaz, joined them. "Captain, we rigged some old explosives with alien tech scavenged from patrols. We can disable vehicles and drones in a pinch." Marcus smiled, a rare break in his usually stoic demeanor. "That's the spirit. Adapt, overcome. That's what they don't expect." The Council's alien officers remained dismissive, but cracks appeared in their confidence. The elderly Lieutenant Tarn, still cold and precise, found himself forced to grudgingly acknowledge the humans' growing effectiveness. At a brief meeting, Tarn said, "Your squad's sabotage delayed 2 Zalrax supply convoys. It's impressive." Marcus allowed himself a smirk. "We fight dirty because we have to. Your tech is impressive, but it's predictable. We're not." Across the field, the enemy's brutal efficiency continued. The Zalrax struck fast and hard, but they were caught off guard by the humans' unorthodox methods. Ambushes exploded in bursts of flame, traps disabled drones mid-flight, and hit-and-run attacks shredded enemy morale. In the heart of a ruined marketplace, Marcus led a small patrol through narrow alleys, using the shadows to stay hidden. His senses sharpened, every sound, every movement a potential threat. "Eyes up," he whispered. Keep tight. Suddenly, a skittering noise echoed from above. A drone, a small reconnaissance model, buzzed low, scanning for movement. Take cover! Marcus hissed. The squad melted into cover behind crumbling walls. Diaz quickly assembled a makeshift EMP device, a jury-rigged pulse charger scavenged from alien parts. Ready, Diaz said. Marcus nodded. Now. The device pulsed, sending a disruptive wave. The drone shuddered, faltered, then crashed into the debris below. Nice work, Marcus praised. Sarah smiled. These old tricks still work. The human success didn't go unnoticed by the younger alien officers. Lieutenant Varluin, a brash Velra soldier, approached Marcus after one mission. You humans are strange, Varluin said, tone laced with disbelief. You use clunky weapons, slow movement. But you fight like cornered predators. Marcus chuckled. Sometimes, that's exactly what we are. Varluin's skepticism wavered. I've seen your squad turn the tide more than once. Maybe there's something to your stubbornness. Marcus fixed him with a steady look. Stubbornness is just another word for survival. That night, around a flickering campfire, the squad gathered. The firelight illuminated their tired but determined faces. Stories surfaced, of battles fought back on Earth, of losses and triumphs, of why each soldier was here despite the odds. Diaz spoke first. Back home, they told me humans were finished. That we couldn't keep up with the world changing so fast. But here I see that's wrong. We're still here. We still fight. Sarah added. It's not just the weapons or the tech. It's how we think, how we adapt. That's something these aliens don't get. Marcus nodded. It's about heart. And refusing to quit when everything says you should. The fire crackled, and Marcus's mind wandered to his early years as a soldier. He remembered the drills, the losses, the camaraderie forged in blood and sweat. Here, on an alien battlefield, those memories fueled a fire stronger than any plasma cannon. The next day brought a new challenge. A large Zalrax supply convoy was scheduled to move through a narrow canyon, a perfect target for ambush. The Council's alien strategists dismissed the plan as reckless. This is your battlefield now, Marcus told his squad. We'll hit them fast, hit them hard, and vanish before they know what hit them. The squad set explosives and positioned snipers in elevated ruins. They waited in silence, breaths shallow. The convoy rumbled into the canyon, massive skimmers loaded with weapons and supplies. As the lead vehicle entered the kill zone, a precise explosion rocked the canyon walls, sending debris crashing down. Vehicles stalled and crashed. Drones spiraled out of control. Marcus's team moved swiftly, striking exposed enemy soldiers with calculated precision. The battle was chaotic but efficient, ambush and retreat in perfect harmony. When the dust settled, the convoy lay in ruins. The humans had inflicted heavy losses with minimal casualties. Reports from alien commanders began shifting tone, from dismissive to grudgingly impressed. Lieutenant Tarn approached Marcus afterward. You were reckless, he said, but effective. Your methods, they might be necessary. Marcus allowed himself a small smile. We're not here to play safe. We're here to win. The victory was more than tactical, it was symbolic. The humans had proven that they could disrupt the enemy where technology alone failed. It sent ripples through the Galactic Council's ranks. Back at base, Marcus gathered his squad for a debrief. We're starting to turn the tide, he said, voice steady. But this is just the beginning. The Zalrax will respond with everything they've got. We have to be ready. Sarah looked around at the squad, a spark in her eyes. We fight like humans. And that might be what saves this war. The men and women nodded, understanding the truth in her words. Marcus glanced at the horizon. The war was far from over. The enemy was brutal and unyielding, but so were they. They underestimated the human edge. And that edge was only getting sharper. The skies over Veshner Prime burned red with the aftermath of the latest assault. Thick plumes of smoke blotted out the distant stars as the Zalrax forces regrouped, their snarls echoing through the shattered canyons. The humans had hit hard, but the cost had been steep. Captain Marcus Hale stood amid the wreckage of a collapsed outpost, eyes scanning the horizon for signs of enemy movement. His squad, worn and battered, cleaned their weapons silently, each soldier lost in their own thoughts. The Council's alien officers convened nearby, their faces grim. Commander Valera, the high-ranking strategist, turned sharply toward Marcus. "Captain, your last raid delayed the enemy, but it also drew their full attention. The Zalraks are preparing a counter-strike. Expect a massive assault within days." Marcus met her gaze steadily. "Then we prepare accordingly. We don't run, we fight." Valera's lips twitched in a faint smile, more out of respect than agreement. "You humans have a stubborn streak, I'll give you that." Later, in the cramped war room beneath the ruined city, Marcus pored over stolen data recovered from the battlefield. Flickering holograms displayed enemy troop movements, supply routes, and command hubs. A pattern emerged, an exposed weak point deep within the Zalrak's stronghold. "This is it," Marcus murmured. "Their command center. Take that out, and we disrupt their entire operation." Lieutenant Sarachin leaned over his shoulder, eyes sharp. "It's heavily guarded. Getting in won't be easy." Marcus nodded. "Nothing worth doing ever is." That night, he convened a meeting with his squad. The tension was palpable. "We're going into the lion's den," Marcus said, voice low but resolute. "It's risky. High chance we don't all come back. But if we succeed, we cripple the Zalrak's command and by the council time." Private Diaz swallowed hard but met his captain's gaze without flinching. "We're with you, Captain. All the way." The squad's silent nods spoke volumes. Fear was real, but it was outweighed by determination. Days passed in tense preparation. Marcus studied the enemy's patrol schedules, noting shifts and blind spots. The squad worked tirelessly, crafting makeshift tools and weapons adapted from scavenged tech and human ingenuity. Lieutenant Chen approached Marcus one evening, her face etched with concern. "Captain, the Council wants to reconsider the plan. They say the risk is too high." Marcus clenched his jaw. "They're scared to lose precious resources. But fear won't win this war." She sighed. "You're right. They'll back us, but only if we have a clear strategy. Then we give them one." On the eve of the mission, the squad gathered for a final briefing. Marcus's voice was steady, every word measured. "We move under cover of darkness. Stealth is our best ally. We disable communications first, then strike fast to take out the command hub. No room for error." Private Evans, nursing a bruised shoulder from the last fight, spoke up. "What about extraction? If things go sideways?" Marcus looked around the circle, locking eyes with each soldier. "We'll improvise. We survive together, or not at all." As darkness swallowed Veshner Prime, the squad moved like shadows through the ruined city. Their footsteps were silent, breaths controlled, every sense alert. The patrols were frequent and ruthless, Zalrak's warriors with heightened senses and deadly reflexes. But Marcus's team used every trick in their playbook, hiding in rubble, using decoys, timing movements with ambient noises. Halfway to the command center, a patrol nearly discovered them. Marcus signaled for silence, freezing his team behind a collapsed archway. The alien guards passed inches away, oblivious to the danger in their midst. Sarah whispered, "That was close." Marcus's eyes flicked forward. "Too close." At the communication tower, Diaz rigged the EMP device. The hum of the charge was barely audible. A quick pulse, and the alien network flickered out, an electronic blackout engulfing the area. "Comm systems are down," Diaz reported. "Good," Marcus said. "Time to move." They slipped deeper into enemy territory, avoiding heavy patrols and traps. The command hub loomed ahead, a fortress carved into the rocky mountainside, guarded by automated turrets and heavily armed Zalraks. The squad split into teams. Marcus led the infiltration group, slipping through narrow ventilation shafts and maintenance tunnels. The air was stale and cold, the silence oppressive. Inside, the command center buzzed with alien activity. Holographic maps glowed, officers barked orders in harsh clicks and snarls. Marcus's team moved like ghosts, disabling sentries silently. Reaching the central core, Marcus planted explosives around the command nodes. The hum of the detonators filled the cramped chamber. Suddenly, a voice crackled through the static. "Intruders detected! Security breach!" The alarm blared, red lights flashing. The Zalraks swarmed in, claws and plasma weapons blazing. "Hold your positions!" Marcus ordered, firing into the advancing swarm. The battle was fierce and brutal. The tight corridors left little room for maneuvering. Marcus fought side by side with his squad, every shot, every strike a fight for survival. Lieutenant Chen took down 2 attackers with precise shots before a plasma blast grazed her arm. "Chun!" Marcus shouted, covering her retreat. Evans tackled an alien lunging at Diaz, buying precious seconds. Amid the chaos, Marcus pushed forward to the detonators. He activated the countdown, 60 seconds until explosion. "Move out!" he yelled. "Regroup at extraction!" The squad retreated through the labyrinthine tunnels, pursued relentlessly. Explosions ripped through the command hub behind them, shattering stone and sending shockwaves. Outside, the ground trembled as the fortress collapsed. The Zalraks' forces reeled, their command structure crippled. Breathing heavily, Marcus rallied his squad. "We did it! We've struck at the heart of the enemy." Diaz grinned despite the exhaustion. "Let's hope the Council appreciates this." The journey back was tense but uneventful. The squad's successful raid shifted the balance in the Warzone. Reports flooded in. Zalraks' units were disorganized, their attacks losing coordination. Back at base, the Council convened urgently. Alien commanders debated, their tones shifting from contempt to cautious respect. Valera approached Marcus privately. "Your mission exceeded expectations. You've bought us critical time." Marcus allowed himself a rare moment of pride but remained focused. "This war isn't over." That night, around the dim glow of a makeshift campfire, Marcus gathered his weary soldiers. "We've taken a risk, and it paid off," he said quietly. "But this is only the beginning. The Zalraks will come back harder." Sarah nodded. "And we'll be ready." Marcus looked at each of his team, knowing the road ahead would demand more than skill or courage. It would require every ounce of human resilience and ingenuity. The lion's den had been entered. Now they had to survive. The morning fog clung low to the jagged ridges of Veshner Prime, masking the grim faces of Marcus Hale's squad as they prepared for the assault that could decide the war's course. The air was thick with tension, every breath weighted by the knowledge that the Zalraks were already hunting them, vengeful and brutal. Captain Hale stood before his team, the faint light catching the lines etched deep by years of battle on his face. There was no room for hesitation now. "We move fast, hit hard, and vanish before they know what hit them," he said, voice low but resolute. "This isn't just a raid, it's a message. We're not relics. We're the edge this war needs." Lieutenant Sarah Chin double-checked her gear, eyes sharp despite the fatigue. "They'll throw everything they've got at us," she said. "We can't afford mistakes." Marcus nodded. "Then we don't make any." Their plan was unorthodox. The humans would spearhead a multi-pronged assault deep into enemy territory, targeting supply depots, communication arrays, and heavily fortified positions, crippling the Zalraks' ability to regroup. The first phase was swift. Marcus's team slipped through narrow canyons and crumbled ruins, avoiding patrols with practiced stealth. Every step was calculated, every move precise. "Patrol ahead, 3 o'clock," Diaz whispered, spotting movement in the rocky shadows. "Hold," Marcus ordered. The squad melted into cover, blending with the jagged landscape. The Zalrak soldiers passed by, oblivious to the predators watching from above. Minutes later, the humans struck. Explosions shattered the silence, as planted charges crippled enemy supply lines. The squad moved like shadows, striking fast and disappearing. Yet, the Zalraks fought back harder than ever. As the humans pushed toward the command outpost, turrets erupted with plasma fire. The air was sliced by whirling blades and snapping energy bolts. Contact! Chen shouted, taking down a charging alien with a precise rifle shot. Marcus dove behind cover as a plasma blast scorched the rock beside him. Suppressing fire! He yelled. The squad returned fire, their weapons chattering in the chaos. In the narrow corridors of the outpost, hand-to-hand combat erupted. Marcus found himself face to face with a towering Zalrax warrior, its clawed hands swinging with lethal intent. Now hail! The alien hissed, eyes glowing with malice. Marcus ducked the strike, countering with a swift jab to the enemy's midsection. The warrior staggered but recovered quickly, slashing with brutal force. Marcus barely blocked, the impact resonating through his arm. Evans! Marcus called. His corporal lunged in, tackling the alien away and buying Marcus a moment to recover. Sweat and blood mingled as the fight raged, the claustrophobic spaces amplifying every grunt and strike. Despite the enemy's ferocity, the humans fought with relentless tenacity. Chen, cover the rear! Marcus ordered, slashing his way through another attacker. Amid the firefight, Diaz planted explosives near the outpost's power core. The countdown began. Explosives set. We have 60 seconds, Diaz reported breathlessly. Move out! Marcus commanded, rallying the squad. Retreating through winding tunnels, the humans were pursued relentlessly. Plasma bolts scorched walls, and snarling Zalrax closed in. The ground trembled as the charges detonated, the outpost erupting in a deafening roar. Debris rained down, collapsing tunnels and severing enemy reinforcements. Emerging from the smoke, Marcus glanced back at the smoldering ruins. That's a blow they won't recover from easily. Back at base, reports arrived in rapid succession. Zalrax's supply lines were in disarray, command communications down, and troop coordination faltering. Alien commanders convened, their voices edged with disbelief. Lieutenant Tarn approached Marcus, eyes narrower than usual. You humans have changed the battlefield, he admitted grudgingly. Your tactics, effective beyond expectations. Marcus allowed a brief nod. Adaptation wins wars. Days later, the humans received intelligence of a major Zalrax counteroffensive. Vast numbers were converging on Veshner Prime, intent on crushing the resistance. Council strategists debated withdrawal, fearing annihilation. Marcus stood firm in the war room, facing a sea of alien skepticism. Retreat means surrendering the ground and the war, he argued. We hold, or we lose everything. Valera stepped forward. Your humans have proven themselves, Captain. If anyone can lead the defense, it's you. Preparation for the defense began immediately. Humans and aliens worked side by side, blending technology and old-school tactics. On the eve of battle, Marcus gathered his squad. This fight will be brutal, he warned. But we hold this line together. Trust your training, trust each other. The battlefield was a chaotic blend of energy beams, explosions, and the cries of combatants. Marcus moved through the fray like a ghost, coordinating squads and leading charges. In a critical moment, Marcus faced General Zeldar himself, the towering Zalrax warlord whose cold eyes burned with hatred. The clash was fierce, steel against claw, skill against strength. Marcus dodged a vicious swipe, countering with a blade strike that grazed Zeldar's armor. You think your pitiful humans can stop me? Zeldar snarled. Not think, Marcus replied, voice steady. No. With a final, decisive strike, Marcus disarmed the warlord, forcing him to retreat. The tide had turned. Zalrax's forces faltered, disorganized without their leader's command. Allied troops surged forward, reclaiming lost ground. As the battle waned, Marcus stood amid the wreckage, breathing heavily but victorious. The Galactic Council's leaders convened once more. This victory was hard-fought, Valera acknowledged. But it proves the value of humanity in this war. Marcus met her gaze. We're not just survivors. We're the edge this war needs. The Council began to see humanity not as relics, but as warriors, tough, resourceful, and indispensable. But Marcus knew the war was far from over. The enemy would return, fiercer and more cunning. For now, though, the tide had turned, and humanity was ready to fight. The Warzone was quiet, too quiet. Veshner Prime's scarred landscape, once roiling with fire and fury, now held a tense stillness as dawn broke over the horizon. Captain Marcus Hale stood at the edge of the battered battlefield, eyes sweeping the distant ridges where the last traces of Zalrak's forces had vanished into retreat. It was the calm after a storm that had nearly swallowed them whole. The cost had been high, friends lost, families shattered, futures uncertain. Yet here they stood, not just survivors, but victors in a war that many had said humanity had no place in. The Galactic Council's commanders gathered nearby, their faces less dismissive now, etched with grudging respect and a hint of admiration. Among them, Commander Valera approached Marcus, her usually reserved demeanor softened by a rare smile. "You've done more than anyone expected, Captain," she said quietly. "Your people have earned a place at this table." Marcus met her gaze, nodding thoughtfully. "We didn't come here to ask for a seat. We came to prove we belong." Valera's smile deepened. "And you have. The Council will not forget this." As the alien leaders dispersed to reorganize their forces and strategize the next phase of the war, Marcus turned his attention to the soldiers around him. The humans, worn, battle-hardened, and yet unbroken, gathered in small groups, tending wounds, sharing stories, and quietly mourning the fallen. Lieutenant Sarachin approached, her arm bandaged but her spirit undimmed. "What now, Captain?" she asked. Marcus looked out over the horizon. "Now we rebuild. We prepare. The Zalraks won't stay down for long." She nodded. "They'll come back stronger. But so will we." That night, under the cold stars, Marcus convened a small meeting around the flickering glow of a makeshift fire. The squad sat in a tight circle, faces illuminated by both flame and fatigue. "We've won a crucial battle," Marcus began, voice steady but raw with emotion. "But this war is far from over. We've shown them what humans are capable of. Now, it's up to us to ensure they remember it." Private Diaz, ever the optimist despite the grim surroundings, spoke up. "I never thought I'd see the day when the Council actually listened to us." Marcus smiled faintly. "Neither did I. But we earned it, not through fancy tech or numbers, but through sheer grit and refusing to quit." The fire crackled as memories surfaced, of lost comrades, fierce firefights, and moments when hope seemed just out of reach. The shared pain forged bonds stronger than any weapon. "Captain," Chen said softly, "what will become of us after this war?" Marcus paused, the weight of the question settling like a stone. "I don't know. But I do know one thing: humanity will never be the same. We've stepped onto a stage bigger than Earth, and the galaxy is watching." The following days were a whirlwind of activity. The Council formally recognized the humans' contributions, integrating Earth soldiers into their strategic planning and offering resources previously withheld. For the first time, humanity was seen not as a desperate afterthought, but as a vital force. Marcus found himself called to meetings filled with towering alien delegates, discussions heavy with politics and war strategy. The experience was foreign, but the message clear: humanity's time had come. Yet amid the newfound respect, Marcus never lost sight of his squad, the men and women who had bled and sacrificed beside him. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Marcus gathered his team. The air was cool, the distant hum of the Galactic fleet a constant reminder of the ongoing conflict. "We've come far," he said. "But this victory belongs to all of us. To those who didn't make it here, and to those who will fight alongside us going forward." The soldiers nodded solemnly, their eyes reflecting a mixture of pride and sorrow. Diaz, his youthful face marked by dirt and fatigue, stepped forward. "Captain, what's next for us? More battles? More losses?" Marcus placed a hand on the young man's shoulder. "More battles, yes. But also more hope. We're building something new, not just for humanity, but for the galaxy. A future where we don't have to prove ourselves every day," Sarah added. "Where we fight not just to survive, but to belong." The squad fell silent, the enormity of their journey settling over them. The war had tested their limits, reshaped their identities, and forced them to confront a universe that once seemed hostile and indifferent. But in that silence, a seed was planted, a seed of unity, resilience, and possibility. In the days that followed, Marcus walked through the makeshift camp, watching soldiers prepare for the uncertain days ahead. He caught glimpses of quiet conversations between humans and aliens, shared meals, and the beginnings of mutual respect. The Galactic Council had begun to see humanity not as a weakness, but as a strength, a force born of relentless spirit and adaptive courage. Yet, somewhere deep in the galaxy, beyond the battered worlds and shattered alliances, new threats stirred. The Zalraks were regrouping, learning from their defeats. The war was far from over. Marcus knew this well. The road ahead would be longer, harder, and fraught with dangers yet unseen. But he also knew this: humanity was no longer alone. They had earned their place among the stars, not through might alone, but through the unyielding fire that burned within every human heart. As dawn broke once more over Veshner Prime, Marcus looked to the horizon, feeling the weight of history on his shoulders, and the promise of a new dawn for his people. "We're ready," he whispered to the wind. "No matter what comes next, we fight. Together." And with that, the galaxy watched as humanity stood tall, no longer relics, but warriors, allies, and pioneers in an endless cosmos.